June 1st was an opportunity for teams to go ahead and kick it off when it comes to trades. We've seen free agency already in the offseason. We've seen the draft in the offseason. We know OTAs have gotten started and teams are kind of reporting with these voluntary/involuntary workouts. But June 1st was a day that a lot of people were looking for because this is when people could be moved. And this is what I want to talk about. So there were two blockbuster trades that took place in the NFL in the past week. We know that A.J. Brown is no longer a Philadelphia Eagle. He's now a New England Patriot. And Myles Garrett is now in L.A. with a team that doesn't necessarily care about picks as much as they care about acquiring talent in the L.A. Rams, and they do it at a high level. And now Jared Verse is in Cleveland. So I've got a thing that I want to talk about for each individual team regarding these trades. So let me get my first point. The Rams weren't good enough in 2025. And everybody didn't know this. And I'm saying this because the Rams were everybody's prohibitive favorite. Hey, the Rams, they've got Matthew Stafford. Now, this is even pre him winning the MVP last year. This is in the preseason. They look at the Rams and they say because of Sean McVay, because of Matthew Stafford, because of the Puka Nakuas of the world, that this team, of course, they were able to bring in Devontae Adams. They're dynamic offensively. But everybody assumed that they were the best team in the NFL. Now, they weren't poor defensively, but they weren't as good as they should have been, and the Rams knew that. And how do you know the Rams knew that they weren't good enough in 2025? Not just because they couldn't beat their division rival, the Seahawks. And the Seahawks could have easily swept the Rams last year. Beat them 2 out of 3 in two of the most important games of the season. In the de facto NFC West championship game, last game of the regular season, and in the NFC championship game in order to get to the Super Bowl before beating New England. Not only did they know they weren't good enough because they couldn't dominate nor beat the Seahawks, they knew they weren't good enough because they went and signed Jalen Watson. They went and signed Trent McDuffie. They just traded for Myles Garrett. They knew that on the defensive side of the football, specifically in the pass defensive game, they weren't good enough. They ranked 19th in passing defense. Now, this was a defense that had top 10 numbers across the board in a lot of statistical categories. But great GMs, great head coaches, great organizations understand that if there's one area that somebody can point out to us that's a weakness and take advantage of it, we've got to shore it up. And, man, think about this. The Rams found themselves in a position where they didn't want to be in a shootout with an MVP quarterback because their secondary couldn't really slow anybody down. That tells you they weren't good enough for 2025, even if you didn't want to pay attention to it. But the most important team knew it. The Rams knew it, and now they've worked to rectify the situation. Now, my next point I want to make here. Cleveland, who gave up Myles Garrett now, I think they may have just graduated. And I think this is the highest compliment I can pay any football team. Everybody's thinking about this from the Rams' perspective. Well, the Rams got Myles Garrett, and now they've got all this talent. They're again, presumptive favorites to win the Super Bowl. Let me tell you about Cleveland. Do you know Cleveland got Jared Verse? And Jared Verse was the defensive player or Rookie of the Year in 2024, has been to a Pro Bowl. It was on the all-rookie team. Jared Verse, I think, is one of 3 players, like Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons, to have 12 sacks his first couple of seasons in the NFL. Jared Verse is no scrub. Jared Verse is phenomenal. Jared Verse, in my opinion, is a step behind Myles Garrett and another great defensive player that I'll name later on in the show. That's who Cleveland got, and Cleveland was not going to make this deal without Jared Verse. Oh, and by the way, they got a first-round pick from LA in 27, a second-round pick from LA in 28, and a third-round pick from LA in 29. Cleveland Browns have 11 picks in 2027. I don't care what road the Cleveland Browns decide to take. Does Dylan Gabriel and do Shador Sanders end up being their franchise quarterback? I don't know that. Do they need to get a quarterback in the draft next year? I don't know. Do they need to package some picks and go get a veteran quarterback? I don't know. Do they need to solidify their offensive line? Maybe. They can do all of it with what they have. And I want to remind you, Myles Garrett left a top 5 defense to go to a top 10 defense. He left the top 5 in Cleveland to go to a top 10 in L.A. So even though he's in L.A. and they're going to be presumptively better, I don't think Cleveland's going to be worse because they don't have Myles Garrett. Jared Verse is not Myles Garrett, but he's not that far off. And Cleveland has a bunch of dogs on the defensive side of football as well. I've been talking about this all offseason because I want people to understand how good I think Cleveland's going to be, which is why my bold predictions I've gotten them making the playoffs. I think they've just graduated because they made the playoffs 2 of the last 6 seasons, but everybody knows that they've underachieved. I think the Browns are headed for stability, and even giving up their franchise player in Myles Garrett, to me, it solidifies it more. It doesn't diminish it. The next point I want to make here A.J. Brown went to the Patriots. So I'm going to ask myself, are the Patriots choosing talent over culture? Please don't be short-sighted and think that I believe that you can't have both. You can obviously have both. The best teams have both. The Chiefs were built on talent and culture. The Eagles were built on talent and culture. The Seahawks were built on talent and culture. So I'm not sitting here acting as if they're mutually exclusive. What I'm knowing is A.J. Brown can sometimes be different and can sometimes be a hindrance to the culture, not because he's a bad teammate. I'm not going to call A.J. Brown a bad teammate because bad teammates don't block the way he does. They don't play as hard as the way he does. But I do know that he can become not content or upset about situations even after winning a Super Bowl. That's what I know about A.J. Brown because he said it. And I do understand that that had some type of effect on the chemistry between he and Jalen Hurts and on that offense for the Philadelphia Eagles. So if you're the Patriots, you're all about culture. If you're Mike Vrabel, you're all about culture. You were a Patriot who won 3 Super Bowls as a player. You were all about culture in Tennessee when you took that team to an AFC title game appearance. Will they choose talent over culture, or will it be a good mesh? That's the biggest question for me because if the Patriots take a step back, I firmly believe not just A.J. Brown, but it will be something regarding the culture and not the talent in New England. And the last point I want to make on these trades is that when it comes to the Philadelphia side of it, my focus is on Sean Mannion, the new offensive coordinator. One, because the Eagles have had multiple coordinators in each of the last, 5 or 6 seasons? They keep changing coordinators. But what if A.J. Brown goes to New England and is great? See, I don't think the problem was A.J. Brown being targeted until I did my research. Do you know A.J. Brown was, I think, 16th in targets in 2025? Now, he missed 2 games, but 16th. Jamar Chase had almost 60 more targets than A.J. Brown. So in A.J. Brown's mind, that doesn't fly. So if he goes to New England and is targeted and plays well, now I'm looking at Philadelphia was he targeted enough? But also, how did you try to target him? Because he throwing the ball to a receiver doesn't always make it a great opportunity. But scheming it up may make it a great opportunity. So that's why I'm looking at Sean Mannion. Nobody has been very, very impressed with the coordinators in Philadelphia other than the one who was able to go get a head coaching job from the offensive coordinator standpoint. But everybody else, people had a problem with. So all eyes are on Sean Mannion, in my estimation, even without the presence of having A.J. Brown.